Hey, I'm Adam Jusko, and this is Strictly Credit Cards, where we talk about strictly credit cards. Subscribe, why don't you? In this video, I'm going to review the First Premier Mastercard, a card for bad credit customers. So that is where First Premier works in the credit card space. Now, you may have come across First Premier either from a mail offer that they sent to your home. Maybe you were familiar with the name and you know kind of what they do, and so you went out looking for it. Maybe you used a card matching service online, and they gave you the First Premier Mastercard as one of the cards that potentially would approve you. So if you're in the bad credit space, if you have bad credit, you probably know that the credit cards that are available to you, at least on an unsecured basis, meaning you don't have to put a security deposit down in order to get them, are cards that have high fees, usually high interest rates, smaller credit lines, no rewards, pretty plain, and you're going to have to pay a little bit to get them. That's just the way it is. If you have a bad credit history, you aren't going to have the big major lenders want to work with you, so you're going to have some of these smaller lenders who specialize in bad credit customers who are willing to work with you. So while I understand that these companies do sort of perform a service, First Premier is the worst of the lot. They are going to be the credit card company, in my opinion, that gives you the highest interest rates, the highest fees on very small credit lines. They really just sort of take advantage of the fact that you have bad credit, and no matter how bad your credit is, they would be the last company that I would deal with. So they may have sent you a mailer or somehow else you have come to know them, and they sort of bank on the fact that you probably won't know any better, and you will assume that all the other offers out there are just as bad as the offer that they are giving you, or maybe you won't do any research at all and you will just sign up for their card. But you can do better. So let's look at what the First Premier Mastercard offers so I can show you how bad it is, and then we'll talk about how you might do better. So the First Premier Mastercard is an unsecured Mastercard, and those are sort of its two advantages. It's unsecured, you don't have to put a security deposit down. It's a Mastercard, it is accepted wherever Mastercard is accepted. Otherwise, it has no rewards, it doesn't really have anything else going on, and it may be enough for you that it is unsecured and it is a Mastercard, but getting that unsecured Mastercard comes at a price. All right, so let's look at those terms and conditions of the First Premier credit card. The big number that might jump out at you as you look at them is 36%, a 36% interest rate. I don't know of any other credit card on the market that has a 36% interest rate. That is the highest interest rate I know of on any credit card. There are some other cards that work in the bad credit space that have gone over 30%, but I think they even know how bad 36 is, and they're afraid to go quite as high as the king of bad interest rates here with First Premier. So First Premier beats them all in terms of bad interest rates. Now, high interest is just the beginning of the story. Let's look at the credit lines you might get on this card and the fees that you will pay. So for most people who get the First Premier Mastercard, they are going to get approved for a credit line of probably between $300 and $500. Some people might even go down to $200. Some people might get a little bit of a higher credit line, but most people you're going to start at $300 to $500. Now, before you ever even get the card in your hands, you're going to have to pay a one-time $95 program fee. So that doesn't get you anything other than the card in your hands. Now, once you have the card, you're going to have an annual fee in the first year, which is going to be 1/4 of the amount of your credit line. So let's pretend that you have a $300 credit line, since that will be a very common one. You would then have a $75 annual fee that you would have to pay in that first year of having the card. So $95 program fee, $75 annual fee for that $300 credit line. Now, in the second year, your annual fee on that $300 limit card actually goes down, but don't get too excited. In the second year, your annual fee would go from that $75 to $45. However, First Premier comes up with a new fee to add on in the second year, and that is a monthly fee of $6.25. So you still have an annual fee, but now you have a monthly fee as well. So you've got $6.25 per month over the course of a year. That equals $75. So if you thought of that as an annual fee, in reality, you'd have a $45 annual fee plus $75. You'd have a $120 annual fee. Oh, and by the way, if you had a $500 credit line, it would not get any better because at $500, they actually increased the monthly fee for no apparent reason to $10.40, which means your annual fee split up into those months is $124.80, plus you have a $49 annual fee in that second year if you had a $500 credit line. So you would have an annual fee of $173.80 between the actual annual fee and the monthly fee annual fee. And so just to drive the point home one more time, let's look at the fees that you would pay in the first 2 years of holding the First Premier Mastercard if you had a $300 credit line. $95 program fee, $75 annual fee in the first year, $45 annual fee in the second year. That monthly fee would kick in the second year, which would be $75 over the course of a full year. Over the course of that 2-year period, you would pay $290 for a card with a $300 credit line. Oh, and by the way, you probably shouldn't really even think of it as a $300 credit line when you first get the card, because that $75 annual fee that you have to pay is already going to be the first charge on your card. So you're already going to owe $75, which means the actual spending you can do with the card when you get it will actually be $225. Now, I understand you might be trying to rebuild your credit, and First Premier feels like one of the few options out there where you could get yourself an unsecured card and start getting back to a better place in terms of your credit history. However, there are plenty of crappy, bad credit cards out there, but First Premier, as far as I'm concerned, as far as all the math I have done, they kind of take the cake in terms of being the worst in terms of interest rate and fees. So there are other options out there. You don't need to go with First Premier. Now, if I'm going to tell you what not to do, not to get the First Premier Mastercard, I should probably tell you what I think you should do, and that is to start your credit rebuild with a secured credit card. Number one, I would probably suggest Discover's secured card. Number two, one of Bank of America's secured cards. If you have access to Navy Federal Credit Union, I might suggest you look there as well. Now, a secured credit card does require you to put a security deposit down in order to get it. However, these cards I'm talking about, the better secured cards, oftentimes have no annual fee. Their interest rates are not quite as high. Some of them even have rewards. Discover does, at least one of the Bank of America secured cards does. So it is a better credit card, and it can get you to a place where if you make your payments on time, over time, that credit card company is going to look at you and they may give you an unsecured card, give you that security deposit back, and let you continue to use the card going forward. So it's a way for you to get your foot in the door with a more major credit card company instead of paying a ton of money to someone like First Premier. And I understand you might not want to put a security deposit down, but if you were to get the First Premier card and pay $290 over the first couple years to have a $300 credit line, that's money that you are giving First Premier that you will never see again. Take $300 and put it down as a security deposit on a good secured credit card. You would have the credit card, but you also would have the promise of getting that security deposit refunded to you in the future. That is a refundable security deposit. You're putting it down as collateral. So if your card gets upgraded to an unsecured card, or you simply don't want the card anymore, then they will give you that security deposit back. Now, I hear you saying, I don't want to put a security deposit down. I don't care if the First Premier is really expensive. I would rather pay that money over 2 years and lose it altogether than have to come up with $300 for a security deposit. I don't understand that way of thinking, but just in case you are thinking it and you will not put a security deposit down, what I would say is you should take some other steps before you would possibly get to the idea of getting the First Premier credit card. The first step that I would take if I wanted an unsecured card and I had bad credit would be to go to Capital One and use their pre-qualification tool, which basically pre-qualifies you for their most basic cards for people with the lowest credit ratings. So if you don't have very good credit, you could see if you would actually qualify for any of their cards, including the Capital One Platinum. There is the Quicksilver One. They may have one other card in there as well. You could see if you would qualify for one of their unsecured cards. They might also try to hit you up with their secured card, but you could see if you could hit one of their unsecured cards. If you qualify for one of those, great. If you don't qualify for one of those, there are still other places to look. There are a couple of other credit cards for people whose credit is shaky that are either invite only, or you might find them on a credit card matching service like using the links under this video, or you could go to Credit Karma, or Experian has a card match, or there are others as well. So those cards are Merrick Bank. They have what they call the double your line credit card, where if you make, I think it's 6 or 7 payments on time, they'll actually double your credit line from what it was when you started. So that's a way to start to build up some credit there if you can qualify. The Alo Mastercard also is another one that I would suggest you take a look at and see if you might qualify for. Very bare bones, but they do work with some people that are a little lower down the credit scale. So perhaps you would qualify for those depending on how bad your credit is. If those didn't work out, you might want to try a store credit card or two. Most store credit cards are pretty narrow in terms of how widely you can use them, but something like the Walmart credit card, which is issued by Capital One, might work with people whose credit scores are a little lower. You might qualify for the Walmart Mastercard, which you could use anywhere Mastercard is accepted. But even if you only qualified for their credit card that was good at Walmart and Sam's Club, you at least would have a card that you could use for sort of a superstore that you could use for a lot of different purchases, and it could help you to build your credit. And then if none of those worked out, that's when you probably would go down to the place where you're looking at some of First Premier's competitors who aren't so great themselves necessarily, but are a little better than First Premier at least. That's when you get into the world of Credit One and Indigo Mastercard and Blaze and what else? Reflex, and there are a bunch of other ones out there that sort of have the same kind of scheme as First Premier, but they generally aren't quite as bad in terms of the interest rates and fees they charge. You're still going to have high fees, you're still going to have high interest, you're still going to have smaller credit lines, but they're still just at least a cut above First Premier. All right, I think I'm done beating on First Premier. Questions, comments, put them in the comments section below and I will try to answer them. Otherwise, I thank you for watching. Please subscribe and we'll see you soon.